Hello, everybody. So before I begin, I would like everyone to listen to something. Okay, so who got overwhelmed by just listening to this jumble of anthems? This was a mix of the national anthems from India, Denmark, America, and the UK, and it was constantly playing in my head as a child. During my childhood, I have experienced my share of moving. My family went from India to London, back to India, to Denmark, to London, back to India, and now finally here, America. All these moves happened in just the first 8 years of my life. Overwhelming, right? I think so too. For me, it was a very tedious thing to do. From packing up everything and saying goodbye to my friends, to adjusting to a whole new environment, including school system, and making new friends. Each new place I went to greatly differed from the rest. It was as if each country was its own unique world, and I was lucky to experience it. Living in India is much different from the other countries. I'm most rooted to the place because, after all, it's my first home and all my family lives there. London offered a whole new environment too. It was the first time I experienced snow because there wasn't anywhere we lived in India. Also, my first time in a foreign country meant a different culture altogether. For example, in India, it was mostly families that went to public places together, such as restaurants and movie theaters. But in London, people just hung out with their friends. There was less family and more friends. Denmark was unexpected too. There was a huge language problem because everyone spoke Danish and no English. It was sort of a dull time because I didn't have very many friends. Also, a major change was I was homeschooled for the time that we lived there. Finally, my last move was here, America, and I have to say, I'm really loving it. Now, some might call this such a tumultuous childhood. Moving homes disrupts one's life, education, ability to make friends, call their home a permanent location, etc. But I completely disagree. I cannot think of a better way to spend my childhood. Most often, a person's first perception about moving is it disrupts your life. Especially during the early ages, moving can cause emotional problems later on, impede a child's learning abilities, cause the child to not form strong relations, and more. Analysts call this repetition compulsion, which means a child is unable to build a secure sense of home because he or she has moved so much. Although I don't quite agree with that. I think it's safe to say that I have moved a lot during my early years, yet I haven't faced any of the symptoms of repetition compulsion. Each of my moves has greatly contributed to the person that I am today in the best possible way. Living in India taught me how much one's extended family can mean. Surely, I'm very close with my parents, but my experiences in India allowed me to form that bond with my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins too. London taught me how to make friends who will last forever. When we first moved there, I was in the prime age of playing at the playground with my friends. The culture there is so reliant on friends and colleagues that I guess I just had to adapt to it. I am so thankful. I made such amazing friends who I still talk to today, 10 years later, as if nothing has changed. The skills I learned in London have stuck with me and continue to help me everywhere I go. Moreover, I have a pretty introvert personality, so my teachings in London really helped me move past that. In Denmark, I learned how vital it is to take time from our lives and enjoy learning. On a day-to-day basis, we're always hustling to get stuff done and be where we need to be. We're rushed to get to breakfast, rushed to go off to school and work, rushed during the day, rushed to make it home in time for dinner, rushed to do homework and work, rushed to get ready for bed, and the cycle repeats itself. Amidst all this rushing, we fail to enjoy learning from life. In Denmark, I realized homeschooling isn't like that. It really made me embrace the whole learning experience. As a high school student, this is more applicable than ever right now. Finally, America. The culture here is so independent, but family and friend-oriented at the same time. So I guess I learned how to balance the friends and family in my life while becoming self-sufficient. Each new place I went to has taught me something different that has stuck with me and will continue to do so. But that's not to say that all my moves were rainbows and sunshines. No. Did I have to face some difficulties? Oh yeah. It's not easy to pack up everything in your house so many times, or to make new friends everywhere you go, or to understand and pick up the native accent, or to have pizza as your only restaurant choice. But lucky for me, I had a great support system who taught me how to overcome these challenges. I've learned so much by just facing these difficulties. So why am I telling you all of this? That's because all these places have taught me one common thing, and that is adaptability. Being adaptable is such an important and necessary life skill that I'm glad to have learned it at an early age. So now, here's a little secret. Being adaptable is not just for moving homes. It's for any change, big or small, that may come in life. We love predictability. We like certainty because we can prepare for what's to come. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. Life is full of unexpectancies, which is what makes it so difficult. We don't like change because we're unprepared for it, and it causes us to step out of our comfort zones. Most often, this is the reason people are unable to cope with change. They simply cannot adapt to the new setting. This makes the change seem even more daunting than it actually is, and further scares us for the future. Now, as we're progressing towards newer generations, it's important that we keep up with every development, and that means acclimating ourselves into these changes. People who are willing to change or shake up the conventional ways of doing things will remain relevant throughout their working lives because they're not afraid to experiment. Especially workplaces are changing faster than ever, and if you're not willing to constantly adapt, then expect to be left behind. To add on, being adaptable means working without boundaries and being open to finding diverse and unexpected solutions to problems. Without limitations on your thinking, challenges become not something to dread, but to seize and enjoy working through. So, how do we hone or develop our adaptability skills? Well, the answer is small, and I mean literally. Find the silver lining in things and always hope and assume for the best. Make mistakes and grow from your shortcomings so they're not repeated again. Ask questions and challenge the established ways of doing things, as that is a key component of being adaptable. Finally, learn from others. By just adapting to this, I, a 17-year-old girl, am ready for the real world. I'm ready to be relevant. The real question is, are you? Thank you.